Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Mr. Shakespeare here again with you on the 8th of April, 2023, Easter Saturday. So I'm here with psychic medium and remote viewer, Liz Cross. How are we doing today, Liz?
Oh, very well, thank you. Do you have any plans for Easter weekend?
Bike riding.
Yeah. Just, is the weather nice?
Well, it's going to be good. It's good today. It's going to be good tomorrow. Monday's looking a bit dodgy, so we're not sure about Monday at the moment. So, bike cleaning.
Oh, bike cleaning after the bike riding. Okay. All right. And will you have a chocolate egg tomorrow?
I would hope I would be getting one of those. Yes, from the.
You know, we miss out over here. That's one thing I have to give, the Brits credit for, which is your chocolate Easter eggs, right? So you have these Cadbury, these large Easter eggs, and you break them open, and then you have chocolates on the inside. We can't get those over here.
Right. No, I remember when I lived over there, I had to always bring them over for my American neighbors. I was like, I had to bring a separate suitcase full of Easter eggs. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, so who is Ludwig?
Ludwig, Heinrich Engel
Ludwig.
von Ludwig,
Sorry,
von
Ludwig.
Mises. So he is an economist. He's the old school economist. He's not one of these print money and be damned. In fact, he's the complete opposite. He's interested in free markets and what they call Austrian economics. So now he's not around anymore, but he probably, as it says here, is one of the most notable economists and social philosophers of the 20th century. A lot of people have aspired to his writings and learnings and are that way inclined from an economic point of view, as opposed to the Keynesian sort of print money and, it doesn't matter what we do kind of where we've been living, Unfortunately, he died just as the same year as Nixon took finally the dollar off the gold standard. He did it in 1971, but that was temporary. It was made permanent in 73. And so this year we're 50 years into that wonderful event of unbridled inflation. So let's talk to Ludwig about that, shall we?
Yes. Okay. I have no idea who this man is or what you're going to ask me. You've sprung this on, so let's go. Even better.
Okay, right. Can you get a connection with him, please?
He is so happy to talk to you, Mr. Shakespeare. He's excited. Yes.
Okay. Well, I studied a lot of his stuff years ago, so he's a known entity to me. Right. Let's start with, what does he think of the current financial situation in the world today?
What do you think of the current financial situation in the world today? It's a ticking time bomb.
Okay. Does he see any possibility that any government will be able to resolve this problem with, essentially more money printing or money creation?
Do you see any possibility that any government can solve this problem with more money? Absolutely not. That is, going in reverse, according to him.
Why does he think that the governments keep doing this, though? They keep wanting to kick the can down the road.
Why do you think the governments keep doing this? Because they don't care. Who cares? They'll be dead by the time the problem catches up to them. So the people that will have done this will be long gone. And that's basically, he says, what they're thinking. It won't be my problem. It'll be somebody else's problem.
Right. But obviously, if the financial world collapsed tomorrow, then, the politicians and the people in charge tomorrow would be blamed.
Are the people. That is correct. But most of them would have so much money, they could always withstand any financial collapse.
Right.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. Okay. What does he think of the Federal Reserve System?
What do you think of the Federal Reserve System? It's a non-government entity is what he says. It's a private entity. It's not a government entity.
Yeah, it's private. Yep. No, it's definitely
Oh, it
private.
is?
Hell yeah, of course.
I know that I learned something because that's what he said. I didn't know that.
Really? You did?
Mhm.
Sure. The Federal Reserve is not federal, has no reserves, and is not part of the US government.
Okay, so he's correct.
He's absolutely correct. Yeah. But I was asking what he thought of the system, because the Federal Reserve System, even though it's not particularly good, was changed with FDR, Roosevelt, and what Roosevelt did to the Federal Reserve System. The original point of the Federal Reserve System was to bail out individual banks. That's why, or to help individual banks who got into trouble within their region. It was FDR that basically changed the whole remit of the of the Federal Reserve System to basically, help the government or bail out the government or print money for the government. I mean, the original point of the Fed system is not what we've got today. Does he think the current American administration is running the financial system correctly?
Do you think the current administration is running the financial system? No, they're being reckless. And this has been going on for years.
Yeah.
They're reckless with other people's money, he says. They have no idea how to run a business.
Well, that's true. Does he think that the war with Ukraine and Russia has had a detrimental effect on the world's finance system?
Do you think the war with Ukraine and Russia has had a detrimental effect on the world? Absolutely. It's had a knock-on effect. It's affecting every single person in the world.
Does he think that that's highly inflationary, that war?
Do you think the war is highly inflationary? Well, it's a reason to be. It didn't have to be, but it gave them the reason to be.
Okay. With all the 2 trillion that was monetized with the COVID payments, does he believe that was highly inflationary for the US economy?
Absolutely, extremely so, more so than the war.
Yes. Oh yeah, totally.
Now, when you ask that question, what exactly are you referring to? Is this when people were getting like stay-at-home money?
Yeah. So there was about 2 trillion that the Fed had to monetize to pay for all of that stay-at-home money, don't work money, don't do anything money. Now, bear in mind that it had an ulterior motive. It was, that was put in place. It was supposed to be permanent, but it never got to be permanent. So the problem is, though, that the Fed was forced to monetize all of that, and now that's on its balance sheet. So all of these extra dollars are floating around. And again, that's inflationary. Everybody's looking at why prices are rising on everything. And you've got the war, you've got, which is one thing. I mean, you've got that big handout that, the Biden administration did because they didn't want anybody to work, that type of thing. I mean, these are all highly inflationary things. And the problem is that, would he ask him this? Does he think that the wages in the US will ever keep up with the real inflation rate?
Ooh. Actually, it was the Trump administration that started the handouts.
Okay.
And what is interesting?
All right, US government, whether it is Biden or Trump. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And what is interesting about the handouts, just from a personal perspective, is we got a little bit of one payment. Everybody was supposed to get one, unless you were an exceptionally high wage earner, which, we're not. We're just average people. We never got ours. We got a little bit and we never got ours. And lots of people are saying the same thing. Like they printed all this money. People were supposed to get all these checks. Yet most people, most of the people I know never got anything, or they got maybe a few dollars. My dad, who is a pensioner, he didn't get anything. And then if you tried to call and say, where's my what is it they called stimulus package, there was nobody there to answer the phone. So you so I don't know what they did with all this money. Anyway, sorry, what was the question? It was about wages.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. Oh dear.
Did you get handouts over in the UK?
I think yes, there was a bit of handouts. Yeah.
But there wasn't much. There wasn't as much here.
Well, yeah. Don't forget, England hasn't got the population that America has. But yeah, I think there was quite a bit of handout there over in America, and even more. Sorry, there was quite a lot of handout in America, not so much in the UK. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, again, yeah, but where goes America? Where goes the rest of the Western world in a way? So, we're sort of concentrating on this. I mean, I'm trying to get to the bottom of, and I'm trying to get to, everything that's been happening recently is highly inflationary. All right. And this goes against the principles of Austrian economics and things like that. So, this guy would not be impressed with all this inflation that's just raging wild. Since he died in 73, we've had 50 years of massive inflation.
Okay, so the question is, will the American
will wages in America, does he believe wages in America ever keep pace with the actual real inflation in America?
Never again.
Right, that's what I thought.
And in fact, what he's saying to me, the further we're going into the future, the further the actual wages are going to match the inflation, the cost of living. Is it ever going to get to a point where two wages, and he's like, what are you talking about, Liz? You're at that point now. So my question was, two wages are not enough. And he's saying, you're at that point now.
Yeah, I believe it's true.
What happens when we're not able to produce more money in a two-wage household? And he's like, well, you're going to start starving. So people are going to start really relying on food banks. They're going to start really relying on, co-ops and things like that. What I mean by that, there's a proper name for it, but you pay the farms, like $500 before they plant for the year. And then, the farms then produce the food and you get a box. We have that, certainly around in this area. And that's what he's talking about. That's going to have to be more and more and more. But I'm saying this, let's ask him this question. Are we seeing a significant decrease in farmland and farming? Yeah, we're losing like 20% of farmland and farmers. How many years? Each decade. That's huge. So it's getting to the point where the government will have to pay farmers to, instead of farmers relying on the people going to the supermarket and the supermarkets paying the farmers, it's going to get to the point where the government will have to just pay farmers. That it'll be a wage, it'll be a salary.
There's a couple of interesting quotes attributed to Mises. One is something like, the most important thing to remember is that inflation is not an act of God, that inflation is not a catastrophe of the elements or a disease that comes like a plague. Inflation is policy. Did he say that, and what does he mean by that?
Did you say? Yes, he did say that. And what do you mean by that? That the government controls the economy.
So they are deliberately creating inflation.
Are they deliberately creating inflation? Maybe not deliberately all the time, but they're certainly a mass contributor through
Right, but
mismanagement.
but the effects of their policy, their finance policy, their reckless spending, things, or lavishly subsidizing or bribing vote. I mean, that's all inflationary, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's mainly down to mismanagement. He's saying not just the US government, but all governments mismanage the money that they collect. Actually, the amount of money that they're collecting, every single citizen should be well taken care of, have excellent free health care. This is his own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinion, but the mismanagement is so vast that they're putting the countries into the grave.
Right. Another thing I remember he said was something like the gold standard did not collapse. It was the government abolished it in order to pave the way for inflation. Did he say that?
Yes, something like that. Yes.
Yeah. I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something. So in other words, they want the inflation. They want this control over people. They want to do these things.
Well, they want to dumb down the population, is what he's saying.
Right.
You dumb down the population, you keep them poor, they become more reliant, and therefore there's more power and control. And he's saying eventually, the US is going to be totally unrecognizable.
Hmm. Okay.
Will that be achieved in this century? No, probably by 100 years from now, the US, there's going to be a lot of poverty. There's going to be this massive rich poor divide. So the rich are going to get very wealthy. The poor are going to be extremely poor. Jobs are going to be hard to come by because a lot of jobs are going to be made obsolete through technology. Therefore, those that have got generations of hands-on jobs, generations of farming, he's really into farming, generations of like car mechanics, plumbers, things like that, house builders, those people will be employed. But the employment of, people answering telephones, people physically responding to emails, that's all going to go. All of that.
Right. What does he see? Does he see anything particularly bad happening to the US financial system this year? Not the economy, but the financial system. The dollar-based financial system, the Federal Reserve note-based financial system.
Okay. No, not overly. No, he believes the knock-on effect of the recent, the collapse, the bank collapses, that will be felt for many years to come.
Right. Okay. But so he doesn't see any seismic shocks to the financial system this year. Is that right?
No, not in particular. No.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right.
This is a very interesting probe. He's like doomsday is always just around the corner with the way that these governments are carrying on. He says no government system is perfect, but right now they're not even trying.
Well, I think he answered it in the first place. They don't care. That was in the answer in the first question. They literally don't care.
Yeah. And, it's very apparent. Will you come back and reincarnate soon? Yeah, he's due to come back in around 2050. And are you going to be an economist? No, he's going to come back in very poor. And I'm saying, why are you coming back in very poor? Oh, because it's his time to experience poverty. Are you going to be in Europe? Yes, he's going to be where? Austria? No, Germany. He's going to be coming back in through Germany, but a very poor immigrant family, he says.
Oh,
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Is that what you want to do? He's like, no, that's not what I want to do, but that's what I have to do.
right.
Very telling. So there are there are circumstances in our lifetimes, and we design our lifetimes before we get here. And are you saying that we have to? Yes, we have to experience certain circumstances in our lifetimes, in our many, many, many lifetimes, in order to achieve soul ascension, and a higher level of consciousness. So it's something that he has to do. That's interesting. Okay. Any more questions?
No, I think that's covered, Mr. Mises. Thank you.
All right. That was a good probe. Well done, Mr. Shakespeare. Welcome back, by the way. Welcome back from his extended 3-day holiday. We missed you so much. All right.